Hi, this is Siofra's Magic Alcove, and I'm Siofra Bradigan. So somebody asked me to do a video on how to see auras and what the colors might mean. So I guess I'll give it a shot. Let's see what comes out. I never know. So I've talked about the idea of softening up your eyes and trying to look past your energy field. At this point, it doesn't take much for me, even in a room that has all kinds of different colors and during the daytime, to actually see energy around my hand. I can see the inner part of my aura rather quickly. It's sort of like a dark purple. And then as I gaze, I start to see like a cloudy, sort of like a heat wave kind of look going through the air on the outside of my fingers and around my hand and stuff. And that's part of it, is like, being able to see the heat wave. Sometimes you can feel the energy between your auras better and sort of activate some of that stuff by passing over the palm chakra, you know, and getting that activated, which helps to open up your third eye a little bit. Helps with the healing energy. Usually makes your hands kind of warm and tingly. And then it's easiest to do this on a neutral background, off-white, beige, some kind of neutral color that you can put your hand up to, or a person that you're trying to read, background of, around them, so that you're not distracted by all of the items and objects in the room where your eyes will want to focus on them. Because if you're going to see subtle energies, you can't be focusing on the physical form and bringing it into clarity, because once you do that, then the aura part usually vanishes. So I have a lot of green in my aura. I've discovered there's a lot of green in my hands, which usually is an indication of a healer. Green is considered heart chakra kind of energy, but even if it wasn't, it's definitely a healing kind of force that seems to come with that. I saw Lewis from Orcas Island. He came up to Regina when I was there, and I took a couple of classes from him. And he looked at my aura and he told me that it was extremely green. And he decided that that indicated I would make a good teacher and that I would be able to simplify complex subjects so it would be easier for people to understand. Maybe he was right. But I'm also a healer. And that green is sort of like an emerald green. Uh, Other greens can mean other things. A general rule I have for colors: if I see a color, if it's a vibrant color, that's usually some positive indication of something, a clarity of something. If it's a muddy color or a sickly looking color, then that's going to give you different information. My son came home from school one day when we lived up in the Kispiox, and he asked me what it meant when his teacher turned red when she walked into the room, because he saw her aura and it was just all flashing red. And my feeling at the time was it probably would mean anger. And I was probably right about that one. So red could mean anger, or just real intense vital force energy, depending on where you saw the red and under what circumstances, I would assume, and exactly what shade of red it was. There's a lot of assumptions about energy colors and what they mean, and I'm not sure how accurate all of the assumptions are. The rainbow system from the New Age people, with the chakras and the colors and what they associate with and so forth, red being the root chakra, about self-preservation, etc. Um, and some of those associations might be valid, but some of them may not. And so I think the clarity, intensity, saturation, and hue indicate more than the actual color itself and where it is. When I'm in my office working on clients, I don't have it happen all the time. It just sort of happens spontaneously. Every so often, I'll just be working on someone, and we have, like, violet walls, dim lighting. So it's a good environment for me to be able to see stuff. And it just, all of a sudden, I'll see a spark coming off their body. It was just like a flash, like somebody just did this little, like a little energetic spark. And some of them are little, and they vary in color from blue to white blue to white. And I had one day a client came in, and he said, I just got a cortisone shot right here, don't touch this spot. I'm like, okay. And as I'm working on him, all of a sudden, the longest and brightest sparky thing I ever saw, it was like a worm, started on one spot and was bright, bright white, and went like this along the line of his nerve, I'm assuming. And first thing I wanted to do was touch it. And I'm like, nope, don't touch that. He said not to touch that. I'm like, okay, I won't touch it, but I sure want to. And it sort of, yelled at me and said, hey, I'm here. Like, okay. So that's the only time that happened. But in general, they seem to indicate blockages of some kind, like energy is trying to get through, but it can't. So it's building up and like sparking out. So that could be useful for somebody else who might see sparks as well. Of course, my clients are like, what? What do you mean I have sparks? They're like, oh, you're just like that. I'm like, yeah, I know. I'm sorry. It's just the thing I do. And usually when I see the spark and I touch it, it hurts. It's got a trigger point. So I'm like, okay, that's a reason for me to touch sparks, but not the long, squirmy one, because that was a no-no, not to touch. And the biggest one I saw was like about the size of a nickel, I think, and blue, a brilliant blue. And so I did touch that one. I touched all the other ones, not the one I was told not to touch. But if you're trying to figure out what the colors means, first you have to be able to see the colors. So if you can't see the colors, you don't have to worry about what they mean, right? Because I don't know what color that is. There's some energy flying around, I'm sure, but what the color is, who knows? So until you're at the point where you're actually seeing colors, then you don't have to worry about it. And then when you can see colors, then you can start to make correlations. Heat and cold is another indication in an aura of something that's going on. Heat usually means inflammation of some kind or a previous healing, in my experience. And then cold means not enough energy is getting through. And then if you run your hands down a limb, like down an arm or a leg especially, and you stick to the skin, that's called sticky chi and in Chinese medicine. And that means that the energy is not flowing like it's supposed to. And when I find that on my clients, I grab a hold of their limb and I pull the energy down. I feel it with my hands. I activate my aura and chakras and stuff. And I actually can hold a person's body inside my aura. Like there's certain energetic holds that are sort of like a specific type of massage technique. Different things are called different things. Where I put like one hand underneath like the sternum in the back, the rib cage, thoracic spine, and then the other hand on top of the rib cage. So a hand here, a hand there, and then visualize the energy going through my hands, between them, and then affecting all the tissue that's in between them and allowing it to unwind and move itself. It's sort of like giving it an energy source in which to do it. It's a very gentle technique, and it can be extremely powerful. People will actually feel that between my hands, and then their body can start to move on its own. And you can do that anywhere where the body can move, where you can hold, you sort of like you're adding a fulcrum to a situation, like where there's a joint of some kind, you put like your hand on one side of the joint and your other hand on the other side of the joint, and you just hold them there and wait. and the energy flows through that part of your body, through their part of the body, then the muscles will start to like do this kind of little dance. It'll start off like minuscule movements, and it can actually get to the point. I've had people where their whole arm is moving all over the, around their body and going in different places. Same with the neck. I've done that a lot with the neck, where I can just hold the neck and let the energy flow through, and then the muscles start to unwind, and the head moves back and forth in different directions, which is interesting for the client because they think I'm doing it, but I know I'm not doing it, that their body is doing it, but they're sure they're not doing it because they're not doing it, but their body's doing it anyway. So it's very interesting for the clients, and they're usually like, what is going on? This feels very strange. And so that's along the lines of things you can do with your aura, when you can feel it. And at this point, I don't see just like the color edges. I'm starting to see, I don't know what to call it. It's sort of like little lines, like not a grid specifically, like not even, but it's like the energy comes out in these little black and white or black lines and make patterns and stuff around the hand. And that's how I found in one of my clients, I was looking down her body. She was laying on my table face up. And then I saw this cluster of these little lines of energy all sort of balled up in like a little ball of stuff. And it was just sitting there. And I'm like, is that really there? Am I really seeing that? So I kept watching her and moved my eyes in different directions and stuff. And then it was like above her chest, and it went up and down with her breath. So it was pretty clear it was attached to her. It was in her. It wasn't just like a floater in my eye or something like that. So there's certainly things that you can see in an aura that you can then affect. I actually took the thing out. I found 3 of them in her that day, and I just removed it. And then she felt best that she's felt in months, maybe even years, for the next couple weeks. So it can have a dramatic effect, changing someone's aura. Just as a short side note here, the idea that a stone can protect you from an EM field, put a shield around you to protect you from EM radiation, is not true. Electromagnetic energy doesn't work that way. So it's like electromagnetic energy is from moving electricity all through a wire kind of thing, and it makes a field magnetism around it. And it's not just flying through the air, but then belief does a lot of stuff. So I used to cover my head with my hand like this, going underneath large power lines, because they would give me a headache. So I would be like trying to like block the energy from getting into my aura that way. And it seemed to help some. I don't know if aluminum would work, like all the people who are wearing aluminum hats to keep the aliens out of their brain. You never know. Maybe it would help that too. But that's just sort of one of those things. It's like science and magic are not opposed to each other, and magic works along with scientific principles. So unless you're turning your entire body into some kind of a radiating barricade against an EM field, I'm not sure how that would work. Anywho, it's probably subject for a different video. So seeing them takes practice, and one of the places I often practice in groups of people, like in a restaurant, and I'm sitting against one wall, and then there's people opposite that are sitting against another wall that's kind of like a blank wall. It works pretty good, and I've done that, looking at people's auras and trying to see what I can figure out. I am not an expert by any means, but I'm certainly starting to see the colors much more vividly, and that is a breakthrough, because a lot of times people can't see the colors because their brain tells them if they saw the colors they would be hallucinating, and hallucinating is bad. So Again, shadow work, trying to get those things out of your brain so they don't stop you from being able to do stuff that you might actually be able to do, but you can't because you've told yourself it's bad. Yeah, okay. So we just finished doing some talking to the Mercury spirit because he came to us last night and was freaking out about something. So my brain is apparently now going all over the place. So sorry about that. I will stop now, and this will be it. We can talk about this another time. So this is Siofra's Magic Alcove, and I'm Siofra Bradigan. Blessed be.